I'm Revis, and today I'm sharing with you all the Infinity Conquest that I completed this season using the well-known Thanos control meta deck. Quickly, just to hit off any questions, the setup is a little bit scuffed. Sorry you can't see me, and that the trackers are a little bit different because I'm currently traveling. So I did this off stream while I was traveling to give some small feedback as far as like some context behind these runs. This was my very last Infinity ticket. I actually lost three Infinity 5s this season before, and a bunch of Infinity 4s. So actually one of 9 tickets, probably my worst season in a while. But this was my 40th border, 41st Infinity Conquest completion. Here, just to get into the game, I'm snapping because I have a bunch of stones in a Thanos mirror match, so that's what we have right here. But yeah, so this is going to be a post VOD review. This is something that I try to do every month. I think last month I did not, but I'm going to do that here. Give a little bit of my thoughts about playing Conquest, especially when you're having difficulties. In this case, I was getting pretty tilted. This was all the way to my last ticket. Before this game, I played a game 1 using the same deck into Hela, and I just got high rolled out of my mind in 2 games back to back for 4 and 6 cubes, and it was just like insane. But yeah, here we're both snapping because we both have a lot of stones. I don't know if there's too much to talk about here. I actually realized that I drew all the stones after the time stones after I snapped, so my mind stone actually doesn't do anything here. So I'm looking for other stuff, specifically Mockingbird. In my opinion, Mockingbird pretty much carries the entire deck right now. If it wasn't for Mockingbird, I think that Thanos would be like 2 or 3 tiers lower, at least this version of Thanos. But yeah, so I'm going to talk about the games and then just Conquest overall, kind of what the strategies go. Usually for these videos, I try, if you're new to them, I use good decks, and this is clearly the best deck in the format, and just walk through my thought process and how you should look at certain matchups. Overall, over the 9 Infinity runs I did this season, I did a variety of decks. I actually made it twice to Infinity 5 with a discard Hela hybrid deck, which I might feature maybe this weekend, because I do think there's enough good games there, and I've been using the deck on ladder as well with a lot of success, that it might be worth showing. But yeah, so here I put out all the stones because I was planning to play this Psylocke to cheat out the Thanos into the vault. The only thing I'm kind of scared of here is if they start stacking the vault a little bit more this turn. On turn 5, I expect them to play Vision. That's the general play. I don't think they're going to be able to prof me with the way my stones are set up. So yeah, Thanos Mirror very interesting, but it's also like pretty straightforward as far as like cards go. You're gonna have to do a little bit of coin flipping here and there. But I think I am in a really good spot. Obviously, I'd be in a much better spot if I had a free Mockingbird on me, because then that would mean like I can guarantee the win the vault, or I can guarantee set up priority. That being said, I do think the 20 power Thanos here is a good start for setting up that priority, which then hopefully can lead me to an Alliath win, is what I'm thinking here. So yeah, that's my thought process in this game. They end up playing Vision left, so I have Prio. They pretty much have 3 options here. They can leave Vision and Nivedillier, they can move it mid, or they can move it right and play a Jeff. I decide not to play around Jeff because I think that's kind of unbeatable for my position. And so I decided to go for Shang-Chi. This beats if they keep the Vision there. It also beats if they move the Vision mid and play something there. They would have to play multiple cards there, and so here I'm taking some time because I'm doing the math of like, what if they go like stone, Shang-Chi middle, like for example, right? They move Vision middle and Shang-Chi middle, and I should be far enough ahead because I have Power Stone and Soul Stone there, and they already have their Soul Stone on the board. So I'm basically trying to go for this read. They end up going for just 1 card in Nivedillier, and moving the Vision mid, so they're playing a little bit around Alliath. It doesn't really play around Alliath on the left, so I was surprised to see them make this play. and I take the win for 8 cubes, which is just huge here, right? Mirror matchup, now they're down to 1 cube, pretty much impossible for them to come back, and they leave. So I'll skip through some of the waiting. There's actually not too much, so I'll try and fill this with some of the non-gameplay stuff. When you're playing Conquest, especially in mirrors, you pretty much want to snap anytime you have like a straightforward line. So in the Thanos matchup, stone into Mind Stone, always to snap in the mirror. Don't be afraid if your opponent snaps back. You pretty much like have to weigh the average hands and mirrors, which I think is like pretty important knowledge stuff. I've played a lot of Thanos, so like I pretty much know how to bully the little bit of cubes I need in this mirror matchup, and even when playing against Thanos, which is probably why I don't mind the deck too much, despite its popularity over the past few months, is that like I know pretty well how to beat the Thanos. The only thing that really feels unfair to me is the Mockingbird. It's really hard to play around, especially when it's 0 cost. Sometimes you just have to give up and like be like, yeah, that's how it goes. One thing you'll notice I'd be very sure to do here, because it's my final ticket, I'm just muting everyone right away. I highly recommend this if you get tilted by people emoting, especially if they emote after like mid game, after maybe they win a certain play, a 50-50 play. One thing again to note is that this is another Thanos mirror, so that is why I was pretty quick to snap with a Time Stone, Mind Stone. Pretty much the best possible hand currently. And yeah, I even have Hope. Hope is another thing that's pretty solid to snap on. I think it's less important than the Thanos mirror than it is versus other decks. Versus other decks is kind of what gives you a big advantage, because this deck very much is like a ramp and control list. They snap me back here, so I'm assuming that they are trying to fill Bar Sinister with Jeffs and maybe set up for a Mockingbird, so that's why I am going for this reality here in Mobius instead. I do want to play Mobius eventually. You'll notice I play Mobius before reality. This is in case of Lumeria flipping up. I think it's very important you play reality last, just as a habit. There's way more locations that punish you for playing it first rather than last. And Lumeria is a big one. So yeah, we flip Nord Dimension here. Our Mobius does a huge job of stopping the wave. I'm a little bit confused here because wave in Thanos is really unpopular. So I am very surprised to see it from my opponent here. I'm thinking maybe they're trying to Galactus me mid and maybe like set up like Wolverine. So I'm holding the Space Stone, so I can try and Space Stone somebody's Death's Domain next turn potentially. My stuff will be the same cost, while theirs will be more expensive, so I'm still in a good spot. That being said, Space Stone on our dimension, very good. They can give themselves more energy with the gens, and they do turn off middle, so my plan of moving stuff middle is thrown out the window, and a Limbo flips up, and an important thing to realize here is we both used our Reality Stones. Reality Stone tracking I think is super important if you're playing as and against Thanos, because it's how you scam a lot of the time. So yeah, here I'm just thinking about like, what are they gonna do potentially? I want a Space Stone because I'm still looking for this Mockingbird. I was really hoping to hold it for the last turn, just to add a ton of variance to the end of the turn. I think it's pretty important in a Thanos mirror. It also allows you to dodge Goliath pretty consistently. Here they play Kyra and they play Jin. So yeah, I'm thinking this is maybe like the old Lockjaw style list used to run these two cards. One thing that this sets me up for, I'm noticing immediately, is a Magneto play. I could try and drag these two and clog up the right, or I can maybe try and pull them to the left. That being said, I do need to move a stone if I'm going to try and pull them to the right, just in case they play something there, and maybe it's something I can't beat. So yeah, and you'll notice here too that I hold a Soul Stone. One thing I do a lot, and I think it's also like a small Thanos tip if you're looking to play specifically Thanos, is if I know I'll have extra energy and next turn I'll have 7 energy, I often hold the stone that activates Thanos so that they're unaware that I have an active Thanos. I think that's just a small tip. Like, it's pretty obvious when your opponent has an active Thanos because of the huge animation, and if you can hide that, that's gives you a lot of cube equity. Right, so here I set up, I actually don't get prio because of this dinosaur growing at the start of the turn. One thing I'm afraid of here with the Black Swan is that I'm shrinking the dino, so it's possible like my Shang-Chi won't hit the dino. Right, they've only played 2 stones. If they play like, they can play out 4 cards from their hand, and they have 6 in hand right now. So they could shrink the dino small enough for Shang, and then I would lose that lane, which would be pretty bad. So I'm trying to figure out here is how can I win right and be far enough mid and left to win at least one of them. One thing I don't have to worry about is they've already played Soulstone, which is like a big power swing in the Thanos matchup, since we are already playing a lot of stones down, right? So yeah, I decide just to play Thanos right and just not move the vision at all. This swings right lane, swings middle lane, and I'm already up by 9 in the left, and since they have 2 stones and 2 gens, their Mockingbird is 1 cost, so they could go to 10 on the left and maybe blob middle. But that case, I'd still beat it. There's some weird lines they could take that could maybe win, but yeah, they just end up blobbing left, and I win middle and right for 8 cubes. Right, so pretty big thing here. If Thanos wasn't boosted, it would be go to tiebreaker, which I would lose. So yeah, hiding the Thanos probably brought me a lot of cube equity here. Here I'm just looking, they have Cannonball, Shadow King. I think those are pretty important to know. Always check your opponent's blobs, especially early in the game when you don't know their deck list. My opponent had a pretty weird deck list here, so that's like pretty important. They ended up leaving, but yeah. Small, but like I think really important thing for Conquest especially. Last thing you want to do is have them slowly come back because you forget about a card that you could have seen coming earlier. But yeah, one thing I do kind of wish I did try this deck earlier. Maybe I would have got less tilted in my Conquest. I think one thing I realized playing out these Conquests is that comfort is probably the most important thing. I played like 5 different decks in the 9 games, or 6 different decks, I forget if I can count. Is that even though I made it pretty far with like the discard Hela stuff, the last games I was weaker in because I think I lacked some of the matchup experience that I needed to come back after an early deficit. And I do think that's an important skill to have, is to be able to come back after an early deficit. I forget if I have any of those games in this specific Conquest, because as you saw, we had 2 8-cubers back to back. Here I'm seeing Nico, so I'm immediately thinking Destroy. That's the most common that uses Nico, especially with the +2. We know they're not Thanos by the number of cards in their deck. So this first thing that you should always think is, especially in Infinity Conquest, you want to try and figure out your opponent's deck as soon as possible. If you can do that, you can figure out what lines to take to beat them, right? What's more important? Is it important for me to Mobius or to Cole here? Are they going to be running Shang-Chi? Should I be putting Cole in the middle lane, or should I be putting it on the right so it's protected by armor? Nico armor, I don't know what deck this is, so I'm just putting it on the right in case I run Shang-Chi. It'll be protected. It's my only play since Mobius got hit by Icebox anyways. And then we see this high evo, so now kind of assuming maybe it's like some sort of high evo double up deck, or maybe just like standard high evo with Nico. It's pretty unusual to see high evo card. Like the high evo package is like most of the deck anyways, right? So I'm not expecting anything too unusual. Maybe they'll have some tech cards, so I'm happy I put the Cole there. They're running Nico. Yeah, we see the Cyclops here. Note that it's hit by Icebox because it didn't proc at the end. Neither did the Misty Knight. So let me see, played 4 costs for it. My hand here is pretty bad. I'm just playing Hope Summers on turn 5. I have all my 6 drops in hand. If they were to snap me, I would probably consider leaving. That being said, I do have Mobius down, and this Magneto does have potential to win me right and left. So I would consider staying, but I probably wouldn't, just because like this is one of the worst possible hands, right? Every single 6 drop. But they also only play Hope Summers on turn 5 as well. So I'm not going to snap here because I feel like it might give away my play. I'm just assuming maybe they just play one big guy. This will win, right? This will put me ahead in every lane, including the left if they float, right? Maybe they just play Shehulk somewhere. So I'm just going to play Magneto here. I'm not going to snap. They end up just playing Hulk, and we yoink the win in the other two lanes. And this is why Magneto is so good, right? Just one card affected 3 different lanes, able to pull out the win. So yeah, one thing to know about this matchup, and I'll note it with every matchup with Magic, I am pretty conservative with my Reality Stone in this matchup. You'll see oftentimes I Reality Stone just like on turn 1 if I have it as my main play. I think I only play Time Stone over it nowadays. But in Magic matchups, I will specifically hold it. I'm not sure if they have Magic just yet, but as an assumption, you can just assume High Evo probably has Magic. And you want to hold it, even if you don't play it on turn 6, just being able to turn it off on turn 4 or 5 gets you a ton of value most games, because right, we're going to be playing the stones, and Mockingbird for tempo, having this value is pretty important. Here we get a White Hot Room, so that is what I snap on. I'm pretty sure we always fill White Hot Room. I have Space Stone and Jeff to unfill it. I'm going to use Space Stone to move stuff into Mirror Island so they can't get too far ahead on value there. And yeah, this extra energy is great. That being said, I do need some cards to spend the extra energy on. And yeah, getting this Magneto is perfect because it does allow me to do that. Alright, so now I'm up to 8 energy on turn 4. Which is like dream scenario, right, for a Thanos deck. Just infinite energy. We're not as greedy as the lockshot list, so you do have to make sure that you have stuff to do, but generally you'll have stuff to do if you have some stones. Yeah, I'd be a little bit more careful if you didn't have stones, but if you didn't have stone, you're not filling the White Hot Room, so it's not bad. But yeah, I end up just Magnetoing the Cyclops to the right. It was an option also to Magneto mid, but I figured if I move it to the right, it's going to have the least amount of targets and gets the least value, right? Here I get Vision, so I'm just going to put it middle so I can get some Mirror Island procs, and then I can move it or I can keep it there, depending on how much more power they show this turn. Yeah, they again play Nico for the plus. I'm thinking here maybe they're just gonna full skip and go She-Hulk and Hulk, but yeah, instead they Magic. But yeah, remember if they play on Hope Summers on turn 4, they can skip 6 energy on turn 5 and then do that. So I was trying to plan out how to beat She-Hulk in every lane is what you would do there. But yeah, they play Magic and we top deck this Reality Stone, which is just huge. Here I'm just spreading out enough power to win every lane, right? There's no reason to hold Shang-Chi if I'm going to shut off this Limbo. I have Prio, so I don't have to worry about Cosmo or Legion or anything like that. So I'm just going to lock myself at every location and dump my full hand, put 1 extra power middle just in case, and put Vision in the lane that's closer. The lane that's furthest ahead, I just put a Shang-Chi in. Yeah, we flip it into Sakaar, which is a little bit spooky, honestly, because we see this She-Hulk mid. Thankfully, we draw this Thanos, so even if they top decked a Infinite, I think we were good there. Actually, it would have been tied there, but we would have won the tiebreaker because of the Misty Knight proc. Yeah. So a little bit scary if they had an Infinite pulled there off of the Sakaar. But on average, the Reality Stone will not screw you over. Remember that. As long as you play it last, right? And notice there I moved the Vision first and then Reality Stone. That matters. There was a Fist Tower, for example. Little stuff like that, especially when your every game matters in Infinity Conquest. Make sure Reality Stone last. Here we have a pretty decent setup. That being said, I don't have any draw stones, so it's a little bit awkward. Hela's is great for our deck, especially since they already played their 1-drop off of it. I can play all my stones there and just get like a ton of extra power. I was gonna go for double Hope Summoners on the Vats, but since they played Cyclops there, I decided just to play it middle, I believe. Start ramping up there. I'll use the stones to get the buffs and the bonus. And yeah, but one thing to note, once again, we have a pretty bad hand here. We do have ramp, so it does fix a little bit of the problem of having every single 6-drop. I would not be afraid to leave here if my opponent snapped me purely because of like this is like worst possible scenario, right? On average, you're not gonna have every single 6-drop in hand and 1 stone that doesn't draw anything. That being said, they flip into Titan. I have the ability to move these Cyclops wherever I want. And I still have like the Hela's advantage, right? I was a little bit surprised they didn't play Nico into Hela's. Yeah, Titan is great. It is kind of spooky for them because they could pass this turn and then they could play Shehulk Hulk and still float for the Hulk extra bonus. Yeah, they end up just going for magic, turns off the Helas, but it also clogs them on the left, which is probably my secondary win condition here, was to clog them and basically make it so that I win a location for free. So here I'm just going to do out some math in my head of, so I'm assuming that you're going to float again, so Magneto will go to 8, and then I'll need to put 10 power there, I believe, because if they float again on turn 7, they will shrink down me by 4, right? Instead of by 2. Like they're gonna shrink me by 2 this turn, and then by 4 the next turn. So yeah, realize that this vision moving will tie that location only, it will not win it. Thankfully I top deck this Mockingbird, and because of the extra Hope energy I get to go Aliyah middle and Hope left. I'm hoping that my opponent doesn't recognize that I have this extra energy here, and I do believe I go for the coveted Boomer Snap. Let's see. Yeah, there we go. Which basically, like, I'm in an always win position unless they have like a secret Doctor Doom or something, or I have priority. But they haven't seen my Aliyah yet, and we're able to snag the 4 cubes. Yeah, Mockingbird was super important there for offsetting them. But yeah, we're able to close out the 3rd match. 3 matches in a relatively short time. I'm feeling pretty good right now. This is not the first time you feel good. One important thing that I realized when playing out and messing up some games is don't let your previous matches influence how you play in the future ones. I definitely got a little bit looser and played more as if I always had a lead in the later matches, if I felt like I was playing well in the future ones. And while that can work sometimes, I think it is just as important to be cautious when you need to be, especially in matchups where your opponent can like just rob you of a ton of cubes all of a sudden. And we'll get into that with these last 2 games. They're probably the toughest out of this set. But yeah, here we're getting Blackstone. I'm playing Power Stone over Reality because it wins the Blackstone. I would love to get the extra energy. I don't know what deck they are. I know they're not Thanos. But having this extra energy would be huge, right? In my ramp Thanos deck. But yeah, so we play Power Stone there. Pretty much one of the best things. I get to play Jeff Reality. Thinking about snapping, but my opponent instantly retreats. So I get no deck info here. But we do get a free cube, which is always nice. Yeah, so I still have no idea what they're playing. Obviously, they know I'm playing Thanos. Probably have a good idea of what the standard Thanos list is. That is the disadvantage of playing this list, is you're never going to really surprise your opponent, but you're just going to win. Right, that's the key thing here. But yeah, here I see Blade into Infinite, and I am already sweating because I feel like I've been scammed so many times by Hela stuff this season. But then I see the Sunspot and I'm like, huh, is this the Corvus list? Like there's like a Corvus Shehulk list. Or like I'm just a little bit confused because they also skip this turn, so I'm assuming they're like a Corvus Shehulk build that maybe has magic too and to do their own Infinite combos. So I decided to Mobius and play Reality Stone, turn off the Limbo. But yeah, since Sunspot is a pretty good indicator of a Shehulk in general. There we go, we see it right there. So fortunately my gamble to turn off Limbo didn't really pay off. And we do get Savage Land, which is just like really awkward here. I do have extra energy, so I could play the Blob here, which would win the Throne Room. And then I would have to figure out what to do on the last turn. Remember that they did discard an Infinite, so keep track of that. They did not have like anything like a Black Knight or anything, but they do potentially have a Hela or a Ghost Rider. It's not really a known build of a Sunspot Shehulk, so whenever you're facing like cards that you just don't really know, try and be a little bit cautious. But here I go up to 38, they played a Zabu mid, so I'm immediately thinking like, yeah, I'm gonna get Shang-Chi'd here. How do I beat Shang-Chi? One thing to note, Zabu is blocked by the Mobius, so if they go Shang-Chi, they only play a 2-cost card adjacent. That being said, I don't really have too many plays here. I can either go Shang-Chi or Cole and 2 stones. I don't have Pryos, alive does nothing. The issue is if they float any amount in Monster Metropolis, they're gonna keep the bonus on the Sunspot always, like even if I Shang the Shehulk. So I'm trying to do out the math to see if I can win mid, and then also beat the Sunspot over on Monster Metropolis. And the math never really works out. Spoiler. I think one also thing that I also missed here is that my blob is only 19. I saw 38 and I just assumed it was bigger than Infinite there, but it is smaller than Infinite, which means if they put it there, I lose the Throne Room, which, yeah, something I did not consider. Thankfully, they didn't snap me. If they snapped me, I probably would have rethought about it and considered it. Yeah, so they're able to rob me of that location. Thankfully, only 2 cubes. Like I said, this was kind of a result of me assuming being too confident from the previous games. So from here on, I pretty much try and lock in. I'm like, yeah, okay, let's try not to lose to that kind of dumb stuff, right? I should have likely left for 1 cube if I couldn't beat Shang or Ghost Rider. I think it's fine sometimes to stay if you lose to 1, but losing to both is just dumb. Here we're getting in New York. I have a reasonable stone hand and a Mobius. I'm not really too confident in snapping it. In the Black Knight versus Black Knight, I generally like to see if they have the Black Knight. Right here we're going to see an armor, because they will go taller than you if they have like the nuts Black Knight plus Infinite combo stuff. We get a raft here, which is great, although I did use up a lot of my stones already. But I do have Mobius. I'm kind of debating if I should play Mobius right away with this Hope Summers draw. Decide to Hope Summers instead. Ideally, I'll get something to play along with Jeff next turn. I'm snapping here because usually Black Knight cannot fill this fast, and even if they do, I can play a Mobius if I see them filling either this turn or on turn, either on turn 4 or turn 5, depending on how fast they're filling. Here we see a Rogue, which is very unusual in the deck. It is good info for me. It means my Mobius is not safe in general. Thankfully, they only yoink the Power Stone, which basically does nothing, since my Thanos is not going to be active this game, and obviously they're not going to get any benefit off of it. So yeah, essentially they played out 1 power, which is hugely beneficial to me. I did not draw any stone adjacents though, so they do discard the Shehulk with Black Knight. They're very likely to fill. Thankfully I have a reasonable play line here of just Jeff plus Mobius. This means they don't get a free 6 cost and I get a free 6 cost, and as long as my free 6 cost is like somewhat reasonable, I should be in a good spot. I should get an Eliath here. It's a little bit spooky because I'm not guaranteed to have priority. Thankfully they just play Ebony Blade and a 0 power Sunspot, so I do have priority. And I do Topic's Vision, which I think is pretty important because it allows me to go up by 5 mid, and that means I can just Eliath and I can Vision mid and move the Jeff over to right, and I should be winning right and mid, and if they full float, right, they full float the 6 energy, I'll be winning right and left. So yeah, they leave because right, I have the free 6 cost and bonus energy. But I don't believe even if they stay, there's any way for them to win.
The universe shall be set right.
So now we're going to round 4. Important to note, I'm on an even amount of cubes and they are on a odd amount, which means that this is a free game for me. I can leave for 1 cube, and we'll be going even into high stakes. It's important because if I lose 2 cubes, then they'll be ahead of me in high stakes, and that basically means they can go all in or have me go all in without going all in themselves, which is pretty important. My hand's pretty weak here. I have no draw stones. They have Black Knight Zabu. X-Mansion's about to flip. If it flips poorly, I just instantly lose, right? If they have their Black Knight discard this turn, I lose. So I decided to take my free retreat here. I likely would retreat even if it wasn't free. But yeah, it's important to know the difference between free retreat and free stay. Sometimes it'll be free stay there, right? If I was at 9 health, for example, although they would have to be lower for that to matter. Not 9 to 8 is a bad example because being, right, like I said, it's important to be even or ahead of your opponent for the all-in situations. I can try and write up a chart at some point if that's something people would be interested in, of like when it's a free snap and a free retreat. Some of it will be a little bit matchup dependent as well. Obviously, if you have a good hand, you should never retreat if it's free. I should note that as well. Here I'm playing Mindstone mid. I figure I can catch a Sunspot if they don't have armor. And if they do have armor, it's just good to play mid for free, right? A Sunspot is a pretty valuable card for them, so I get to killing it for just a Mindstone is pretty solid. That being said, this board is very hostile to my deck. Isle of Silence basically cancels out all of my ongoing stones, and Cosmos, I can't play stones there. Rickety kills my stones. That being said, I can just feed some stones to Rickety, and it kind of forces my opponent to play there. I am afraid of Ebony Blade because Ebony Blade instantly wins the Rickety Bridge. Armor also wins the Rickety Bridge, but I can put stuff in their armor, right? But yeah, by the fact that they're not snapping me, I'm pretty confident that they don't have an Ebony Black Knight in hand. That being said, I don't really have a turn 4 play. I decided just to play Stone, play Mobius. Mobius doesn't do anything, but it's 3 power. I'm likely gonna go Vision into either Blob or Eliath, depending on if I have priority or not. Right, Eliath middle would instantly win middle, so it is pretty tempting. With the Ghost Rider there, I find it kind of difficult for my opponent to figure out a way to win Cosmos, right? Since they have a Zabu down, they can't put any 4 costs there. So I'm fairly confident I'm winning right lane here. The only thing they could potentially have on their top end is like a Magneto, maybe. I'm not too worried about Magneto until I see it, because Shehulk has to replace something, right? In the standard Black Knight list, and they also run a Rogue, and so they likely have a Shang-Chi there, and one other card, right? The other card will be the hard one to figure out. Yeah, so they get a 20 power blade here, which almost always gonna go middle, right? And I don't have priority here, so I'm trying to figure out, yes, if I play blob left, it does probably only go to 15, right? So it's gonna go to 20. So I'm looking at their card list and I'm like, okay, they top decked a card. They only have 2 cards in hand. It's either armor or rogue, and very likely the blade goes mid. But so now I'm thinking, okay, if the blade doesn't go mid, it's either going mid or into aisle. If they have armor, they might be putting armor mid, so that's why I'm considering this vision here. But I'm like, okay, what if they have a chef? Is what I'm a little bit worried about, is if maybe it's like ebony blade chef. This line would be pretty bad. So I believe I swap them. I should swap them. And then I'm just like, okay, I'll hope that I win the tiebreaker. I don't know if I could ever win the tiebreaker unless I really high roll the blob, so it's potential the other way around was better. They do play Cosmo, which shocks me, and I actually thought I lost for a second, but it's Isle of Signs, so Cosmo does nothing. So now we should know their whole deck list, I believe. I forget if we're missing one card. Oh yeah, Shang-Chi, yeah. Shang-Chi should be the last card in their deck list. Not 100%, it is a little bit weird to run armor and Cosmo of Shang-Chi. Possible that it's a Magneto or a maybe a Magic. But yeah, getting that big win there for 4 cubes puts us up 7-3, which is a really good position to be in. Right, basically now I'm forcing them to have the combos pretty consistently if they want to compete. If they ever miss it, I can try and put them all in. We have Stones and Mockingbird. You could very much consider to snap here. I don't want to snap into Black Knight, especially when I'm already leading the matchup, so I decided not to. But yeah, they're not snapping me, which does make me think that they don't have a discard or something to discard. So it would be, I would not be offended by a snap here. Like, you may be correct. We get Quantum Realm here, which both of us can get into fairly easily, right? They could Ghost Rider or play the Blade there. I can play my Blob there, or my Vision. So, but yeah, I'm gonna use up the Murder World as a way to get rid of this Djinn, give myself a little bit more board space. I can get pretty clogged pretty fast with the Djinns and the Stones, so even though it would reduce Mockingbird by 1 more to put it somewhere else, I'm gonna have so much energy, right? That I find it unnecessary. It does mean I can't play a 6-drop and Mockingbird, but I would have needed to play an extra Djinn anyways to do that, right? Let's get 7 energy. Yeah, we see them discard Shehulk. Discarding Shehulk's not as scary, right? 410 is pretty on par for stats. I mean, I'm playing a 2-9, so it is nothing to worry about here. Right here, I'm just deciding, am I just slamming one of these 6 costs down, or am I trying to like split up some power? I still have 2 stones, and actually the 2 stones activate Thanos potentially. So I'm just trying to figure out the best placement for everything. And I'm going to play out the Djinn so I can go maybe 6 costs in a stone into maybe another 6 costs in a stone. It's kind of what my thought process is. Make sure you plan out your turns like this. Obviously, you don't have to follow the plan always, but it's a good idea to have future knowledge of like, yeah, this is probably what I'm going to do. This way, you don't have to spend time thinking about like what your obvious play is. Here, I think my opponent makes a little bit of a mistake. They clog themselves middle with this Ebony Blade. I mean, I guess it's clear that they wanted the extra energy for turn 5, but I don't think clogging yourself is ever very good, especially as early as turn 4. Since I played Mockingbird middle instead of Mind Stone, I'm actually only off by 4, right? I just need 4 power to flip it, and Soulstone does that by itself because it's +1 and -3 for their side. Important thing about Soulstone and Ebony Blade is that Soulstone does not reduce Ebony Blade. So do remember that, otherwise you will lose in some scenarios. But here it would be just enough to put me up by 1. They shouldn't have any way to buff middle in their deck. So I'm just trying to see if I can set up for priority. That being said, I don't have Goliath in hand, so maybe not having priority is better. kind of taking an in-between line of if they play left, they get priority. Otherwise, I get it. And yeah, they end up playing out Ghost Rider, Shehulk out, and then Shin. And now I'm kind of expecting their last turn to just be like Armor Cosmo, right? That's pretty much what's left in their deck. Armor Cosmo, Rogue, Blade, Infinite, and probably a Shang-Chi or some other unknown card. So I don't want to play Blow Up here, right, and have it be Cosmoed. Ideally, I'll do this trick that I talked about earlier and play Thanos and a Soulstone on the same turn. It's going to activate Thanos. It puts me up to 31 on Murder World, which is 16 greater than them, right? They can't play a Infinite this turn, so no other card in the game can win there. Even a Giganto is 3 points off. So yeah, that's why I decided to go for this line. They go for an armor to play around Shang-Chi, and we just play. Even a 10 power Thanos would have won, but 20 power Thanos. Two 20 power Thanoses in Infinity Conquest feels pretty good. Especially when they're surprise ones. So yeah, we're able to take round 4, even despite losing a few cubes early to some hubris, I'll call it. And yeah, so now I'm feeling pretty excited. This is like my 3rd or 4th run in round 5, so I'm like, okay, I really don't want to screw this up. I'm playing the best deck. I'm pretty well versed in Thanos in general. I believe I just go and select an avatar here. I can probably speed this up a little bit. I decided to go with the Hope avatar. Oh, one thing I noticed in all my conquests this season is that almost always people used avatars related to their deck. In general, I use a random Infinity avatar. I generally try to do one related to me, the deck I'm using when I'm trying to infinite border, but otherwise I try not to do it. Like, I almost try sometimes to do it to something unrelated, because I do think giving away what your deck is pretty bad. Yeah, so here we're going into the final game. Our opponent's snapping the Murder World, which is pretty scary. I don't have any stones at all. And I have a Psylocke that doesn't ramp anything out. I have a Mockingbird that's not cheaper, so I believe I just decide to leave here. I hate leaving early in a conquest when I don't know what my opponent is playing, because, right, it could just be Bluff Snap, or maybe like I just need one card to beat them or something, right? Maybe it's like a Tribunal deck where just Mobius beats them, right? And that would feel pretty bad. But I think in a scenario where your hand is like way worse than like if it's in your bottom 20% of average hands, I would definitely leave blind. But yeah, so like this hand, for example, I will never leave a turn 1 snap. If I don't know their deck, like then, like, right, maybe if Nowhere was really good for them, I would consider leaving. But yeah, this is like very solid, right? Time Stone nowadays is like the premier stone to play early. Hit Vision is pretty nice, not great, but especially with New York flipping up. Hope Summer is a little bit of an awkward draw here, because it means it could be worthwhile to save the Space Stone, but because I already have Vision cheaper, I decided just to play it out. I'm like, okay, depending, I still haven't seen any cards from there yet, so depending on what they're playing, I might even just play Mobius into Vision. They play a Nico, so I'm immediately thinking Destroy. Obviously, I was wrong earlier with the high Evo player, but yeah, Sokovia gets rid of our Soulstone, gets rid of Shang-Chi. So I'm like, Shang-Chi, okay, it is in some Destroy decks, but now I'm thinking, oh, maybe it's like the Zabu Annihilus deck also runs Nico, like the old school balance with Werewolf. I don't think it's a very popular deck anymore, but that is actually what I'm thinking it is, maybe. And I'm like, okay, this Mobius should do some work. Even if it's Destroy, they have a pretty weak opener, so I decide to snap, and they leave. So I'm still not sure what they're playing. The most popular Destroy deck is running Shang-Chi, so that is worth noting. But yeah, they leave for 1. Smart retreating on both sides. Hiding a lot of info. I mean, my deck should be fairly well known. X23 here. Only deck that it's going to be in is Destroy, so now I have pretty much full knowledge that it's Destroy. It's a white hot room. I don't have any more stones, unfortunately, and they snap me. So I'm like, oh, this location's really good for my deck, even if we fill it at the same time. But I'm looking at my hand and I'm like, I might not be able to fill it next turn. Or actually, I never fill it next turn, right? Maybe if I had Space Stone middle, I could have. And then X23 is also a really good opener for Destroy, right? Gives them extra energy. I am just trying to think, like, is there a possible way for me to fill it? And there's not, so I decided to leave. I hate leaving so early, but yeah, this is definitely a situation where you should. Destroy is a very tough matchup for Thanos. Your stones basically feed them their death and null. So I do think like I need to try and stay in one of these games and steal a bunch of cubes to really feel like I'm in a good spot. They snap me turn 1 here. I'm definitely not gonna leave because I have Mind Stone and 2 other stones in hand, very solid. But you'll notice I actually play Soul Stone here, and this is something I don't do too often, but because of the way my hand is kind of shaped, I decided to hold Reality Stone in case there's a destroy favored location that flips up on the board. Ends up getting hit by Icebox, so it doesn't really matter. But I decided to play Soul Stone instead and maybe just reduce like how big their null gets when they play. I noticed they like to play on the left a lot, so that's why my Soul Stone went there. And maybe like we could reduce the null size by reducing the cards they eat. But yeah, they snap because of the destroy draw 2. However, they play Carnage, which is actually really weak, right? Follow up. Ideally, they would destroy like X23, Wolverine, Deadpool. And here we get a Gamma Lab. I have the ability to fill it with Psylocke and a stone, which means even if they Killmonger, I would get 2 Gamma Lab flips. I guess one thing I could have realized is that since I have Shang-Chi in hand, so I actually snapped this back because I'm assuming I'll have time to Space Stone one of these Hulks over, and maybe Shang-Chi. But since they have Shang-Chi, I'm likely supposed to Space Stone here and go Mind Stone, Psylocke, and Gamma Lab, and then Space Stone mid, so even if they Killmonger, I would still get 2 Hulks, then I can move something mid. They just go for a Deathlock, so I get 3 Hulks. That being said, I still get Really Shoot Mockingbird here, which is great. And I do get the ability to move this. If they don't Shang me this turn, I'll have a bunch of priority. But if they do Shang me this turn, like I'm thinking like, oh, I am kind of screwed if they Shang me this turn. Because 1, their null is going to be 1 billion power. And 2, their death is going to be super cheap. And yeah, so they actually do go with the Shang here, and puts me in a pretty bad spot. Because I don't have any follow-up this turn. Look at my hand. I have no 6-drop or 5-drop in hand for turn 5. I'm just playing some stones. So I am regretting my snap a little bit. I'm thinking about next turn. I'm like, okay, the way this board is shaped, the one potential out I have in this game is if I can Spider-Man something and scam them. I'm deciding if I should do it this turn or not. But if I do Hope and Time Stone, I'll actually have enough energy to Spider-Man and Shang, and maybe there's some board setup that's actually a thing that I can do. Right, maybe like they want Venom on the Hulk Shang lane. Okay, so they go for Killmonger, their death is now free. They have priority here, and the X23 goes right, which is actually ideal for me. They have an extra energy. Alright, so my knowledge here is telling me that they're gonna go Death Null. Where exactly they're gonna do this, I'm not 100% sure, but if I were them, I would probably go Death Null in some combination of mid and left. And so if I Spider-Man left, it's either gonna go right or mid, and Shang-Chi mid should always win mid, right, since they have priority. And then the question just is, are they gonna play anything alongside it on the left? And Jeff should beat most things as long as I grab it, so at worst it will be a 50-50, right? I'll always win mid, and Spider-Man should pull it either mid where it will get Shang, or right where it won't matter, right? I'm basically throwing away right lane here. Since I think this is a hard matchup, that's pretty much why I stay, but also I think it's pretty unexpected. Like, they're never gonna play around Spider-Man, right? I got this off the hub. It's not a card that exists in a Thanos deck usually. And yeah, it ends up working out perfectly. They play Deadpool on the right, which guarantees our Spider-Man mid, and then it guarantees the double Shang, which just robs them of 8 cubes. Super solid stuff here. honestly one of the coolest plays I've made in any game in Conquest, much less Infinity 5. He's a menace. Yeah, that's pretty much all I have to say. He's a menace. So yeah, I'm pretty happy about this. That being said, I still need to close this out. We are in high stakes, so they only need to win 4 to come back. But as long as I'm careful, eventually, right, they won't have a Killmonger, or they won't have extra energy, and I'll have like Mobius down, which will mean like we can maybe checkmate them in some way. That's what I'm thinking here. Our hand is pretty weak here, so I'm like, oh, okay, this is not good, but yeah. Notice earlier how I said I noticed that they were playing on the left a lot. I made the mistake of not playing the Soulstone on the left to shrink their stuff. I should have played on the left, so that's minor misplay. Doesn't likely matter in a lot of scenarios, but small stuff like that with null does matter sometimes. But yeah, I do get Mobius here, which is kind of nice. Keeps death out of the picture. But yeah, I'm pretty reliant on these stones here, and they have a pretty good start, so I'm like, okay, I'm gonna need to figure out some way to scam right at this point. I do have Shang-Chi, so maybe we can do some sort of scam thing with that. And yeah, I mean, here I can't really do much with Shang. I'm debating, honestly, the debate is Namor versus Time Stone. I decided just to play Namor because I'm pretty sure I'm just gonna go Vision Magneto or Vision Shang. Plus like some other stuff, right? Maybe if I get this Mockingbird, I can go like Shang-Chi plus Mockingbird. So that's kind of the out I'm trying to play for here. If I get the Mockingbird, right, I'd play Time Stone next turn, and Shang-Chi this turn. So yeah, they play out a big Venom and moves mid. They have a 4-power Deadpool here, so it's not crazy big. I'm debating if I should Shang-Chi this turn or next turn. Because of the possibility of Goliath, I think I decide to do this turn. But the other play could also be Time Stone, Cold Obsidian. I don't think it's ever actually Vision here, because at this point I just need stats to keep up, right? If I'm planning on Shang-Chi, I need to put stats in the other lane, and more specifically stats that don't die to Killmonger. Because I'm expecting that to come from them this turn. They end up Hulkbustering this Deadpool, which puts it to 14 because they picked up the Carnage, so very good top deck from them. But they don't have extra energy, they can't play Death, so their play here, right, with the Shang-Chi coming down, is either going to be Deadpool plus a bunch of small cards or just null. So whatever I do, I want to make sure I beat just null because that's the easiest to beat. And then ideally I put myself in a situation where sometimes I can beat like Killmonger plus Deadpool, or like a bunch of small stuff in Deadpool. One thing that I can't really consistently beat is Shang-Chi, right? I am trying to set myself in a situation where, yeah, maybe this will be Shang-Chi plus Deadpool. But yeah, that's not super consistent. It's kind of hard to play around. So yeah, it looks like they play Deadpool plus a bunch of small stuff. They Killmonger, and my Hope Summer is enough to beat Killmonger on the right. And the Cole on the left is going to hold out versus their help card. Right. And Deadpool flips in. And yeah, we're able to take that Infinity Conquest. Hope you all enjoyed the commentary. Hope you learned something. Definitely let me know if there's anything you ever want me to talk about in these VOD styles. Yeah, and definitely hit the follow, hit the subscribe and the like button if you made it all the way to this far. It's one of the shorter conquests. I think it was under an hour, but still can be pretty long. It can be pretty grueling. Definitely recommend taking breaks between games. If you can, drink water. I was drinking water throughout this, pretty much in between every round, not even every game. Yeah, here we go. We got the Hope Summers Infinity out here. Yeah. Good luck for the rest of your conquest this season next, and I will catch you on the next one. Peace.